am here to talk about some of the things I have been watching recently. It's time for one of my viewing videos. So without too much ado, sorry, the cat is here and I'm just keeping an eye on him. As some of you who watch this channel know, he can be disruptive. He is named for a demon after all. Anyway, we'll start with the 2 episodes of Black Mirror that I have watched. I don't watch Black Mirror regularly. My husband watches it, and then he'll tell me which episodes he thinks I should see. So I think I've maybe seen 4 or 5 episodes ever. But I did watch Joan is Awful, which is the first episode of the most recent season. I don't even know what season they're on. And Loch, which was the second episode. Okay, so Joan is Awful is terrifyingly realistic, near future. It's about a woman who's going about her daily life and then realizes that Streamberry, which is very clearly meant to be Netflix, is making a series of her daily life. Everything she says and does in a day appears in this series, but played by a different actress. And yeah, it if you know anything about the current writer's strike and now the SAG-AFTRA strike that has joined them, you know that AI is a big part of the concerns for creators. I, as an author, also have concerns about AI. I know a lot of my artist friends have concerns about AI. And Joan is Awful kind of plucks that fear by saying, oh, well, when you signed up for the streaming service of Streamberry, you agreed to let them use your likeness in any way they saw fit, you know, and then Salma Hayek shows up as Salma Hayek, but also playing a character, because it's kind of a very, like, meta layered sort of thing. And she makes the episode. I mean, hands down, Salma Hayek is so good at comedy, I just have to say. So anyway, considering that some of what the producers and studios are asking to do is to have extras sign something like just a flat day wage and then say, oh, but we can use your likeness in perpetuity forever, you know, we can just graft you into other movies, we can have someone who looks like you doing whatever we want. No thank you. I think actors have been, you know, prizing their likenesses for like a century, and it's not something people should just sign away for a day's pay. Okay, so that's a hard no, hard pass. And this episode of Black Mirror, Joan is Awful, which is the name of the series on Streamberry. Joan is the character, and it pretty soon, like, everybody gets their own personalized so-and-so is awful show. And personalized content is obviously, you know, also a thing. I don't know that if I spent a whole day doing something, I'd want to go home and watch my day over. Like, but I also don't necessarily think I want other people watching me for entertainment either. Although, considering current behaviors, I think everybody thinks they're the star of their own show anyway, and that they're the only ones who matter, so maybe there's a little bit of tweaking there too. The second episode of Black Mirror that I watched was Loch, which was a take on the true crime genre, like, fad. I feel like true crime has reached kind of a peak and is finally starting to taper off, at least for me. I used to watch a lot of it on YouTube. I've kind of felt oversaturated lately. It just feels like too much. And now there's like all these documentaries online, all these streaming documentaries about every single case and fictionalized versions of, and I didn't watch the Dahmer thing. And I just can't. It's too much. It's too much. And Loch Henry is about a Scottish boy brings his girlfriend home. His mom is not super thrilled. The guy and his girlfriend are supposed to go make a pretty like benign documentary. They're film students, but then the girlfriend finds out that the town has the history of this like serial killer. And she's like, oh, we should make the documentary about that. That would definitely be popular. It would play to film festivals. We could sell that. Like, that would be... And it goes from there. I guessed the truth pretty early on. They tee it up a certain way, and it's very obvious they're teeing it up that way, which in my mind goes, well, then it means that's not the answer. So I had it pretty, like, I had it sorted pretty quickly. Maybe because I read and write a lot of mystery. But it was still entertaining. I still really liked it. I think I enjoyed it more than Joan is Awful. Just generally, Joan is Awful was really funny at moments and concerning. But for whatever reason, I think the tone of Loch Henry I enjoyed more. Just, I don't know. There was something about it tonally that was more my speed. So those were the 2 episodes of Black Mirror that I've seen so far. I think my husband said there's one more he thinks I should watch that's about astronauts. He says it's really dark, but that I should probably see it anyway. So that's on my list, but I haven't watched it yet. I also watched the Wham documentary. I just felt like it was so fortunate that they have so much archival like footage and recordings of George and Andrew talking so much about like their work and their past and everything. So they had a lot to draw on. And it just, I don't know. I was slightly too young for Wham when they came out, but my friend's older sister, I remember, listened to them a lot, so I was like aware. I knew some of the songs. As an only child, I wasn't exposed to music outside of what my parents listened to, really, and especially in a fairly sheltered household, religious household. It was pretty limited. My parents weren't like super strict. They listened to things like the Eagles and Jimmy Buffett and Paul McCartney and Wings, things like that. So I listened to rock, but it was fairly benign rock. It was nothing hard or heavy. There was a fair amount of country music in my family. Jerry Jeff Walker was a big one. I think he and Jimmy Buffett were they go kind of together. So anyway, all this to say that like I've enjoyed Wham since much later in life, but at the time in the 80s when I was small, I was only vaguely aware of them. I didn't really know who the singers were. Like, I couldn't have told you the names of them or anything. It wasn't until much later with George Michael I knew who he was, and people said, oh yeah, he used to be in Wham, and I was like, oh, okay. I had the George Michael, those Columbia CD things. I ordered George Michael's, it was the name of the album, Faith? I'm not even sure. I ordered it on the sly because I knew I wasn't supposed to have it because it had some naughty songs on it. Things like I Want Your Sex and Father Figure. And, and so I wasn't, it wasn't something I was supposed to have. But, so I ordered it on the sly for my penny or whatever it was, back then. And I still have that CD somewhere. But Yeah, I thought that the documentary was really, really well done. Like I said, it's largely archival, like voice recording and images, but I enjoyed it. And then we watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, finally, which I did really enjoy. I wanted more Adam Warlock. I don't know if we're getting more of him somewhere else down the line. I have long since quit keeping track of whatever Marvel's doing because I kind of don't care. I'm over it. I just want to watch the ones I want to watch, see the people I want to see, and everything else I just don't care. It's too much, and just no. I'm over it. So I don't think Chris Pratt's character, Star-Lord, Peter Quill, whatever his name is, me and Gamora were like, Quinn? What? He tried to be a little more serious in this, and it didn't really serve him or his character, and his fixation on Gamora being who he remembers her as was tedious and just kind of gross. Like, don't tell a woman or don't tell anybody who they should or shouldn't be. Like, shut up already. Get over it. And so that part wasn't great, but the rest of it was pretty entertaining and fun. And, I overall enjoyed it, I think, more than the second movie. Maybe not quite as much as the first. But it was good. It was good. It was solid. I think James Gunn does good work, and it makes me kind of curious / hopeful for what DC will have coming. And at the same time, I don't really care about any of the DC characters, but like, he might be able to make me care. In the same way that I didn't care about Guardians of the Galaxy, but then he made that movie, and it was really, really fun and really, really good. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies. And so now I'm like, oh, maybe he can do something similar with DC characters that, I never cared about before, but maybe he'll be able to spin it in a way that'll make me care. My husband keeps telling me I need to see the Suicide Squad movie because that one was really good and has that vibe. And so that's on my list too. And then finally, something I watched a while back, but hadn't really been ready to talk about. And I'm not going to say, so I watched Shiny Happy People. Okay, so I never watched any of the Ducker TV shows. I was aware of them. I was, in the same way that I don't watch the Kardashians or any of that, but I'm aware of them. But then, all the news kind of filtering out about Josh. Is that I can't even keep track of them all. Anyway, I grew up in a non-denominational, charismatic Christian household. We were Catholic till I was 8, and then my mom got born again, and I don't want to get into a lot of what happened with that, but Shiny Happy People did impact me, and it just reminded me of all the manipulation and control tactics involved in those related. So I wasn't an IBPL LP kid. My mom wanted to homeschool me, but fortunately, she couldn't because she needed to work. We needed the income. So I went to a public school for a while. I was in a private school for a while too, and then went back to public school. But I think my mom would have subscribed to some of that stuff if she'd had the resources, right? Like, We went to things like camp meetings up in Oklahoma. Jimmy Swaggart and all of those types were present. The 700 Club was on constantly. Like, my mom didn't want me playing with My Little Ponies because of the magic involved. But luckily for me, she had some friends who were a little more moderate and who, talked her down and said, it's fine. It's not a big deal. This is normal imaginative play. Like, these friends of hers were Christians. They were just a little bit less. Like, my mom was fixated on being the best, purest, whatever. And my mom was a youth minister, so I think part of it was that she wanted to look a certain way. She felt like she needed to set a good example, especially with her own child or whatever. My mom didn't like Smurfs. She made a point every time I watched Scooby-Doo, remember, there's no such thing as ghosts, that's demonic, or, she read that book that talked about how evil every 80s toy was, He-Man and She-Ra, but at some point I still was allowed to have She-Ra action figures, and I even had the Crystal Castle and everything. So again, thank goodness for my mom's friends who kind of were like, it's kind of fine, or else I might not have had anything. I don't know. I think she drew the line at Rainbow Bright, though. So anyway, all this to say, shiny, happy people, I recognized a lot of what was going on. I identified a lot with some of the victims coming forward and saying, this is what happened to me, and so it was impactful. And I think, other than that, I don't really know what to say. I don't want to weigh in except to say that they want a theocracy and they're organized enough to try and make that happen unless we organize as well and fight back and show them that they are in fact a minority. They're convinced they're right. They're convinced that they're the majority, the moral majority. And they are a real threat. I will say that because I know where they're coming from. I know what they're like. And that's all I'm going to say about it. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. I reserve the right not to answer anything too personal, but I'm happy to answer questions in a broad sense. And that's all I've been watching. We're rewatching Ted Lasso right now. We're talking about rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is a show I adore, and is always kind of a fun, light... we're looking for things that are a little bit lighter in tone lately. And I have not seen Across the Spider-Verse yet. I'm waiting for it to come to streaming, but we do have tickets for Barbenheimer, so we are going to do Oppenheimer and Barbie next weekend, and I'm excited about that. I'm looking forward to that. It'll be my first time back in the actual cinema in a really long time. People talk about how, movies aren't doing... I'll tell you, I've said it before, and here's my little rant. The reason I'm not going to the cinema these days is not like fear of getting sick. I'll mask if I'm worried it's too crowded or whatever. But the behavior, public behavior, has gone down so much. Just people who just feel like, yeah, I can sit in the waiting room and watch a video without headphones or earbuds or whatever and just make everybody listen to my music or my video because, or I'm just going to take this very loud phone call right now. The last time I was in the cinema was, I think, for Spider-Man No Way Home. Okay, so it was a while. And there were some guys at the end of the row, it's a packed theater, on their phones watching videos during the movie. And I was just like, why are you even here? If you're not here to watch the movie, go the fuck away. Like, sorry, but I will swear. Like, that's, you know, this is not your living room. This is not like, but everybody just thinks, oh, I can do whatever I want, wherever I want. We've gotten to that point in the American individualism, you know, self-centeredness part of the story. And since nobody's holding them accountable and there have been no consequences, more or less, I mean, I'm seeing worse behavior, you know, driving too, and it's just because they can. I mean, there aren't police everywhere, and, you know, what are the odds you're going to be the person pulled over? So you might as well just misbehave, I guess. Yeah, so that's my little rant about people and why I don't go out in public anymore if I don't have to. But hopefully the Barbenheimer crowd will be better behaved. We'll see. This will be a big test for whether or not I'm just really, truly done with cinemas. I've got a nice TV at home. I've got a good sound system. And I don't mind waiting. So let's see. Your move, cinemas, if you're gonna like have, you know, if you want to stay in business, you're gonna need to set some rules and enforce them. You're gonna need to, you know, insist on better behavior from your patrons. And that's that. That's all I'm gonna say. And if there's anything you think I should watch that I haven't, if there's a Black Mirror episode you think I should watch, I've seen the McAllister one. I've seen the one with Bryce Dallas Howard. Those were like way back. Those were first season, maybe even. I'm not sure I watched anything from the second season, and I think, are we on the third? I don't even know. But if there's one, I don't watch anything really gory. So if it's horror, I'm probably not gonna watch it. Psychological stuff I like. Thought-provoking, you know, creepy even is fine. I just not full-on horror. But that's it. That's where we are now with viewing, and we're halfway through July and I haven't finished a book. I keep starting books and then they have to go back to the library, so I don't know if or when I'll finish anything this month. Hopefully. I was reading The Spite House, but it had to go back to the library. I'm reading tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, really enjoying it, but the library is emailing me every day saying, this book is overdue. My library doesn't have fines anymore, but I'm not allowed to check anything else out until I, you know, return an overdue book. And I feel really bad, you know, like it's true. Like they're successful at making me feel guilty about like holding on to this book for so long. Other people want to read it or whatever. And then I'm reading Devil House by John Darnielle, which I'm also really enjoying, but like the first part is kind of this whole build up, and now like the second part is a whole other story that's like a book he wrote before or something, and I'm like, what does this have anything to do with the old Devil House story? Because I'm here for the Devil House story. So I'm kind of annoyed at the tangent. He's got some weird, like he's fixated on using colons all the freaking time. Like what with the punctuation? I don't know. So like I was going along, and then we hit this kind of, I'm going to tell you this whole other story about the White Witch of Morro Bay or whatever. And I'm like, this is not the story I'm here for. Like, why? Why is this here? And I'm less compelled to pick it up now. And I'm like, can I just skip this part? Is this important for any reason to the rest of the story? Somebody tell me. If you've read that book, somebody tell me. Can I just skip this bit? Because I just don't care enough about it. Anyway. Okay, I'm done. And I will see you next. Actually, I'm getting a Kickstarter delivered, I think today. So I may be back with a little unboxing video when that arrives. Until then, take care.